For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Dan Weber. Instant analysis of USC's Tuesday practice, the last practice at USC before they head out to Dallas. And there's a little bit of fanfare today. When they started out practice with some music, the skill players changed their jerseys, so that it was a little confusing for us. And then, of course, the senior tunnel. The seniors exited Howard Jones for the last time in the infamous senior tunnel where they get a little banged up. A lot of guys take cheap shots and hit them, but it was a pretty eventful last practice for USC today.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I didn't even notice that they were playing the music. So it's just not something I'm trying to get caught up on who all switched numbers because it really was, and basically just the wide receivers and defensive backs, although I think Daniel Monterbaby also tight end switched. But other than that, but it didn't look, because the other thing that they normally did on the last practice at Howard Jones is they wear their high school jerseys.
Mm-hmm.
The only one we had a chance to check with was Uchenna. He said he was going to wear his Narbonne jersey but because practice was so early, he just forgot and hurrying up to get here. But nobody else had their high school jersey on at all, and that's probably just as well. I don't always thought that was a little distracting. The numbers changes, weren't so much, but we didn't know. I don't think we really knew until they had their huddle up down to practice, and then Clay called them, to do the gauntlet and the tunnel for the seniors. I don't think we were 100% sure they were going to do it or not, but they made it. They made it happen. The seniors keep their helmets on, and they bust them up pretty good. Although Chenna said it was worse last year, and I think he's probably right. I think it was worse last year.
Yeah, they took a lot of cheap shots last year. But Helton was asked why at Howard Jones and not at Texas. But he said there's something special about Howard Jones where you have to honor the seniors. But he stopped it short because he said, if I talk about the senior class too much, I'm going to get too damn emotional. So some love from Helton at the end of practice.
Well, I like it. If you're at USC, you just have to connect to all the players that played on that field, and you look around at the way they've got the walls now with those guys on the walls, and you just think of the Marcus Allens of the world and the Troy Polamalu's and all those people, and there's so many great players that you really want to honor, and you want to tie in these guys as they're leaving to those guys, and so I think it's just a really good way to do it here, no question.
But because they had the senior tunnel, they tried to get the senior defensive guys back out to talk to us, but it wasn't very successful. Who did you end up talking to today, and what they have to say?
Chenna was the one that, he's probably come the farthest, the 207-pound, rarely used, sort of not an exact position player coming in, and, he overcomes some, off the field. At least one off-the-field issue, and now to go out of here as an All-American, a 245-pound, just terrific leader, inspiration, a guy that has been there for everything they've asked of him. He's just done so many great things. Clay predicted it, and I talked to Clay in the summer, and he said Uchenna is going to be the guy. He will be, and he said, if he didn't get, the Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year, he should have been in the running, and he shared the MVP honors with Sam. So just a great way of going out of here, and a guy that you just think is going to make a big impact in the NFL. So it was good to get to talk to Uchenna. It was.
We're in where are we? This is McKay? No, this is
We're in Heritage Hall.
Heritage.
And we have a couple of fans going by.
Yeah.
It just seemed to. We had a very quiet, respectful tour group, and unfortunately, I think the last two guys were not part of the tour group. I think they were doing their own tour.
Yeah, so we're getting a little interrupted, but we'll keep the show going. But talking to defensive players both this week and last week, you get the sense that they're going to use the Pac-12 USC speed to their advantage when facing a Big Ten team like Ohio State.
Yeah, and I think there's a little disrespect here. I mean, I think it reminds you, a little bit of that when USC beat Oklahoma so bad in the Orange Bowl for that first national championship, first BCS championship, and the Oklahoma people didn't really respect, especially the USC defense, and you're getting a lot of that out of Columbus, where they look at the stats and they say, "Wow, look at how many yards they've given up or how many first downs or whatever. And it is a little bit deceiving when you look at the teams USC's played and the offenses that they've played against say, the teams Ohio State's played. They've played a lot of Big Ten teams that don't have great quarterbacks, don't throw the ball really well. As Clay said, we played 9 bowl teams in the Pac-12. Every one of them with a good quarterback, every one of them with a good offense. He said, you're going to give up some yards in the Pac-12. Because I did. I said, is it, a little bit deceiving if you just look at yards and the yards given up? Because, this USC team, for example, has played 2 awfully, good games or done a lot of good stuff, say, against Stanford. Mm. Stanford might be better than anybody Ohio State's played. They're certainly as good as anybody Ohio State's played. And, you have that goal line stand, the ability to, keep a Bryce Love kind of in check. So this is a team, I think, it's going to play a defense. It's going to play with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder because they're not, being respected. I mean, for example, ESPN keeps the stats, and they rank defenses according to the amount of the total yards you've given up. USC's played 13 games. Yeah. Most everybody else in the country's played 12. So they've given up more yards. And all they do is rank them, and USC, I think, in total yards given up is 101st. And everybody, back at Ohio State is looking at that and saying, man, they're not going to be able to stop our offense with that defense. I think that's the matchup that's going to matter. And I think they're going to play with an absolute chip on their shoulders, and they're going to go out and try to show that this is a defense that can play. Mm-hmm.
As far as injuries go, not that too much to report. Velus Jones was still on a scooter. Jack Jones actually did some rehabbing, so a little progress there. Porter Gustin looks the healthiest we've seen, still not doing anything, still just watching practice. And then Chuma Edoga was pulled from practice early. Helton said that it was due to back tightness. He said he'd rather pull him now this week than have something happen next week and then have that be questionable. So something to watch for with Chuma, but Helton didn't sound so concerned about that. Other than that, pretty healthy as far as USC goes?
Yeah, I think he just didn't want Chuma to do something today that he'd have to carry through to Dallas. So they say, get out of there so we don't have to worry about you over the break or the treatment or whatever. And, you're fine to go there. We did see yesterday we saw Porter, do one little jog. Today we saw him do more than one and jogging from one place to another. Certainly doesn't look like he's having any pain. Nothing even close to football movement. But you wouldn't rule him completely out at this point. And Jack Jones, my guess is, you're considering 10, 11 days from now, he will probably play. But the thing you notice in practice is for week after week after week, you basically have the same group of starters on offense and defense. And that's really, when you've got this much time to get ready for a team and you've got the same guys that have been playing the whole, second half of the season, this is a game USC should be ready for by the time they get to it.
Do you think they'll be ready for it? You've seen the practices. We're waiting to see the Texas practices. How do you think that they prepared so far to this point?
Yeah, I think they'll be ready. I think they're ready. I think they're already ready. We saw them do things today, 2-point conversions and the goal line offense, stuff they do, but they often don't do it when we're watching. They do it on Thursday or whatever on the closed practices and then go through it on the Friday walkthroughs, but we're seeing that. So they've pretty much, I think, gone through everything that they need to go through. I get the sense, too, there's more film study than, when you're doing 12, every single week you got a game and a new opponent to prepare for, there just aren't enough hours in the day to do all the film study that you'd probably like to do. I think for this game, I think they've done a ton of film study. You just hear it from everybody that you talk to. So I think the combination of that and, these are kind of extra practices. They put in everything last week. They're going to go over that next week in Dallas. And this is sort of a bonus couple of days. So, and then they get the rest. Chenna said, the 3 weeks, he said, of everything that we're doing in the 3 weeks, the rest that we're getting might be the best part of it all. So, they ought to be ready.
But we have heard this before. I know a lot of players heading into the Wisconsin Holiday Bowl were very excited about the rest they were getting. Is there any concern with maybe they might come out flat with how much time they have to their next game?
I think that should always be a concern. I mean, I don't think it's the same kind of – I don't think they took Wisconsin seriously enough. I don't think they gave Wisconsin enough credit for the kind of – they weren't a flashy team, but they were fundamentally sound and physical, and they just did what they did. And that was a game where, USC absolutely should have won that game. I mean, they played horrible and still, had it down to the last possession. I don't think there's any chance of that with Ohio State. I mean, they know Ohio State. They respect them. Ohio State's one of just two teams with a roster that has more, 5 stars and 4 stars in that than USC. I mean, USC's the third-ranked roster in the country based on recruiting rankings, behind Alabama and Ohio State. But Ohio State's second. So, USC can't say, we ought to beat these guys. If you just go by recruiting rankings, Ohio State should win. So I like that.
Speaking of recruiting rankings, tomorrow marks the start of the early signing period. Dan and I will be here tomorrow. Clay Helton's going to have a presser, so we'll have an incident for that. But make sure you stick with USCfootball.com. We have a lot of news, a lot of stuff. We'll get you the best info there. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up from Howard Jones for the last time for the season?
It's hard to believe. It is hard to believe that we kind of are in the same place as the players, that you can't believe it's over, that it went by in the blink of an eye, and here we are. We're not going to be back out there. And I think that was the feeling of the players. It's like, is this really over? This is our last. And for some of the guys, the 10 juniors that are evaluating the whole NFL thing and that, I don't think they even know if that is their last practice on Howard Jones or not. They don't get to go out like the seniors do. So, it's one of those, wow, where did that go? And it's gone.
Yeah, it almost kind of feels like we were just doing fall camp incidents, but here we are. Also, by the way, I was getting people sending me Lane Kiffin in a sombrero yesterday, so people...
Did you see the sombrero?
Yeah, I got it. I had seen it before, but people really made sure I saw it.
What did you think about that look on Lane's face?
I think it's funny, but I don't know. Here we are talking about it again.
He did not want to wear that sombrero.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, that's going to wrap it up. For Dan Weber, I'm Keely Eure. For more, check out USCfootball.com.